listen to our own. Larry's in there, right? Larry's in this. Larry Krueger. Larry Krueger drove all the way to Santa Clara, and he's like, I got questions for Kyle Shanahan. And then he got there, and he looked Kyle right in the eye, and he said, I want to talk to you about this C-Mac guy that runs right and runs left and catches passes and touches the ball so much. Let's talk about it.
Christian is on pace for almost 400 touches. Is that a sustainable thing? And was that your plan to feature him as much as you guys have in the first part of the year?
I mean, we treat him as our starting running back, so I don't really think of how many touches we want to get somebody in a year. That's week to week and how the game goes, but he gets a lot more extra because he gets thrown to so much in the passing game. But I'm happy with how he's being used. I'm happy with how he's been playing, and we'll see how the rest of the year goes.
I'm sorry.
What's so funny?
I'm in a Friday mood. That was the best throat clear we've ever had on 95.7 The Game.
From Kyle Shanahan?
Listen to this again.
Christian is on pace for almost 400 touches. Is that a sustainable thing? And was that your plan to feature him as much as you guys have in the first part of the year?
I mean, we treat him as our starting running back, so I don't really think of how many touches we want to get somebody in a year. That's week to week and how the game goes, but he gets a lot more extra because he gets thrown to so much in the passing game. But I'm happy with how he's being used. I'm happy with how he's been playing, and we'll see how the rest of the year goes. Really.
Wow, that is a big one.
He leads in. It's not just the throat clear. He leads into it.
Really?
Yeah, he went. It's like he's trying to do Boach or something.
Oh, man.
We'll make a pitching change.
Usage.
He's our starting running back. That
poor guy. I mean.
Look, he talks a lot in front of a microphone. I've been there.
Well, and he talks a lot in the headset, and he talks at practice, and he has to yell over a locker room full of grown alpha males, and he has to yell on the practice field. And when you use your voice like that, your voice is going to need a certain amount of throat clearing. I mean, we all talk about Doc Rivers, and we make fun of him with Mock Rivers and all the rest of it, and the way he voices, So I'm not surprised that he has to clear it.
If Kyle Shanahan does his next press conference like this, I'll be really impressed. Anyway, yeah, okay. Thanks, Kyle.
Totally.
All right.
That was the best of us.
Anyway, now that we got past the frog in Kyle's throat, what do you think about what he said? He does this a lot. By the way, I think I've accessed why people go, gosh, this arrogant guy. He'll throw a statement at you. He answers a lot of questions by giving you an obvious sentence that a lot of people process as, okay, you're patronizing me. Well, he's our starting running back.
Yeah.
Just focus on that for a second. Is there a little bit of, hey, Lair, I'm glad you drove to Santa Clara to talk to me about Christian McCaffrey touching the ball 24 times a game. He's our starting running back. So, yeah.
Exactly.
We give him the ball.
And that,
because he's good at it.
That's what I focus on when I do my Kyle Shanahan impersonation, because he basically is telling you without telling you, or he's telling you in every way other than no blank Sherlock. What he's telling you is he's our starting running back, and we're a team that likes to run the ball. And when you have a starting running back and you want to run it, you give it to the running back so he can run it. And he's also a guy who can catch it and stuff. And so we like to throw it to him. And so I don't go into the year thinking about how many touches he's going to have. But when you have a guy who's really good at touching the football and you want to win games, then you're going to give it to a guy who's really good at carrying it and catching it. And that's what we try to do.
I mean,
Lair.
That would have been amazing if he ended with a lair. Anyway, I'll tell you this. Here's something that we do. And it's not a fair comparison because being a 49er fan and being a fantasy football player are two very, very different things. But we beg for this. We beg for what Christian McCaffrey is doing. We've decided, whether it's a fantasy player or even a fan, like we have mourned the loss of the running back who can play 3 downs and we can rely on you. And then when we finally find one and use him, we go,
usage.
You're using him too much.
Yeah.
And I get that's because the 49ers are really good and people do not want to see their best players go down. But my reaction to Christian's on pace for 400 touches is then he's going to get 400 touches. And that's okay. It's okay with Christian. It's okay with the league. It has happened before. Le'Veon Bell ran this damn show. The Steelers were really good, and he was the number one pick in your fantasy draft every year, and he did it for a few years. And then the Steelers threw him out when it was contract time, and I hate that. I hate the turn and burn nature of this, but that's life in the NFL. And yes, when Christian's contract is done, there's every possibility that the 49ers are going to do the exact same thing. He'll be 30 years old. They'll say, thank you for the 400 touches a year. We really appreciate your time. We're going to go draft someone in the third round and mess that up too. Like, that's the way this is probably going to go. And I get that there's an aspect of that stinks, but it's just funny to me. Do you have an issue with the usage? Because even if he did 18 touches a game, I still feel like there's absolutely every chance of him getting hurt and being worn out come January.
Well, it depends on how that goes, because every time you get a touch, you are more likely to get hurt than if you don't get that very same touch. If he doesn't play this week, he's less likely to get hurt than if he does play.
Well, of course.
So, and I'm not trying to go all Kyle Shanahan on you and hit you with Captain Obvious stuff, but right. I do think that I'm concerned about him being healthy in the end of the year. And if it's 400 touches and then you get to the playoffs and he's not as good as he could be, if he had 300 touches, then give him 300 touches. And I don't know if there is a drop dead number where you get to a certain level and you start to have some fall off. Like in the NBA, we now have science in terms of back-to-backs and load management and what works and what doesn't work and how many minutes and all the rest of it. We think that we've figured out where the sweet spot is for players in terms of how many games in how many nights and how many minutes in those games, and that equates to certain injuries that you're more likely to have and less likely to have. Football's not like that, because you can run one play. Look at Deebo Samuel in the last game. Yeah. First play from scrimmage, he gets hurt. He gets his shoulder drilled on a jet sweep, and his shoulder's hurt. Now, that had nothing to do with usage. In Christian McCaffrey's injury to the oblique or to the rib, whenever it was, he doesn't even know when it happened. That didn't have anything to do with usage. Like, that didn't happen because he had 24 carries in a game. That happened because he's playing football.
I see usage as something that bears out through the years, not through the season. That's kind of what I'm getting at.
I think toward the end of the year, if you are getting used a lot, there is a chance that you're worn down over the course of a year.
I mean, didn't Christian, argue or not argue? I guess the word came out. His leg was a total mess by the time they got to the playoffs last year. But you couldn't tell. I know that he took off in Philadelphia and scored an amazing touchdown. He played. I guess my point is this more feels like something that we talk about with pitchers. Christian's not going to get dead arm. We're not going to get to January and be like, dude, I would have played, but I'm already up to 400 touches.
Right.
I'm just out of gas. Like, I've never heard of a football player doing that. I can see a running back, Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey, Le'Veon Bell. Could we be saying, look, you may not be very good when you're 32. And the reason is because 400 touches a year. Maybe that happens. But if we're all going to be selfish and call this like this season is, they got to win the Super Bowl, they got to do it when Brock Purdy is on this cheap deal, then, is it nice? Maybe it's not nice, but is it all about winning? If you want the 49ers to go crazy at the trade deadline, you want them to go get DJ Jones, you want them to go get Patrick Surtain, whatever it is you want the 49ers to go do. Randy Gregory. Why? Because it's all about this year. I want the chips all in the middle of the table. Okay. Then there's no question what you're doing. You are using Christian McCaffrey every chance you get.
But you do want him healthy in January. Right, so it's not as easy as use him as much as you can right now. There's a certain sweet spot in all of that where, and maybe you see it on Monday, if he's not 100%, if he's, let's say he's 70%, and he could manage his way through the game, maybe you do him and everyone a favor and say, you know what, you're going to sit this one out. We want to reserve and preserve you and keep you fresh for games that matter more down the road.
Maybe. I will tell you this. We didn't even talk about it yet. Mayoko put out something that I thought was really interesting, and I'll just sort of paraphrase. But what he basically said is his read, this is not a report, but based on being there every day, his read on the chances of the 3 injured players playing. He didn't mention Greenlaw because I think Greenlaw is going to be in. But the 3 offensive players, in order of their percentage chance of playing, number 3, Trent Williams. Number 2, Debo. Number 1, Christian McCaffrey. He thinks he is the most likely to play.
Number 1.
Of all of the 3 guys, and added that, here's the interesting note, Christian told the team, do not adjust the offensive game plan for me to not be there. So his intent, we'll see if he gets there, but his intent right now is definitely to play.
Yeah,
that much is clear.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
And I go back to this year in the summer and the off season when we went down there and we watched OTAs and we watched the veteran minicamp and whatever other practices we saw. That guy's out there going absolutely 100%. He's barking at the officials. He's high-fiving teammates. He was taking every rep like it was the most important play of his life. And this was a practice in July. And so I see the way he plays on Sundays now and the occasional Monday and Thursday. And he plays every single play, whether he's involved in the action or not. He plays hard. He loves the game. He wants the football.
Yep.
So he's not going to be a guy who's going to, well, I'm only 70%. I don't want to go out there and play. I do think that he probably has his eye on the MVP as well and sees that, this is something that
you think
I think
that's
so.
a motivator in a situation like this.
I think that he's a guy who wants to play football.
I think he wants to win a Super Bowl.
I think, well, yes, you want to win a Super Bowl.
Way more
you
than
can't
MVP.
win a Super Bowl in October, but you might be able to lose one in October if you're knocked out.
Yeah, your wins matter at every stage. It's kind of like what we were talking about yesterday. I do think it's interesting sometimes as fans and media, we sort of can sit here almost making it feel like a bigger picture conversation. If you're 5-2, that's not the end of the world. You're probably still going to win this division and blah, blah, blah. I don't think organizations ever look at it like that.
In football, for sure.
This is their job. It's their livelihood. And they are maniacal about winning this week. Maniacal about winning the game they're about to play. That is everything. That is all they're thinking about right now. It's all they're working on. Minnesota, Monday. Everything they can do to win that game is their obsession and their absolute focus. Go back to Seattle last year. Oh, he hurt Trey Lance. And while I can hear that argument, the response to me is real. Why did Kyle do that? Because he was trying to beat Seattle. And he did not love Trey's chances to do that by playing a normal drop back sort of a way.
Right.
So he was trying to win the game. Does that mean putting people in harm's way? Because it's football.
But it doesn't mean you're going to force a guy out there who maybe isn't good enough to go from a physical standpoint.
Not if he's not ready, but if he is ready and they think he can help him, they're putting him out there.
Right, but if it's, and I don't know what his percentage is in terms of how healthy he is, but if Mayoko says that he's the most likely of the 3 to play, that tells me that he's the closest to being 100% of the 3. And I know that Doc Pandya from UCSF Medical joined us earlier in the week and said the lower body injuries are tougher to play through,
yes,
i.e. the ankle that Trent Williams has, as opposed to the shoulder for Debo and the oblique for McCaffrey. So that doesn't surprise me that he's the 3rd most likely, but I do wonder about, getting a guy out there before he's really, really ready to go out there and help you. And then it's something that I can't determine from the outside.
Sure, none of us can.
That's only Christian McCaffrey and the medical team.
No, but I do think we can put puzzle pieces together, which is to say that Trent Williams is a 320-pound man who's got an ankle problem.
Right.
That ain't good.
No.
Deebo Samuel's got a shoulder problem, and he leads with his shoulder on every single play when he's out there. Christian McCaffrey has an oblique pain tolerance injury. He doesn't lead with his oblique. Do you know what I mean? And so,
but his oblique is involved in everything that he does.
Right.
The twisting, the catching, the hitting.
Sure. But if they're going to say it's a you can't make it worse injury, then in theory, it's no different than every other body part. Is it in danger on every play? Yep. It sure is. But that's what they sign up for. I get why their mindset is what it is. This is what they sign up for. These are not scared people of anything.
Right.
They're not. So it's like, yeah, let's play. And I'll be fine. I think that's the way they start every single Sunday.
Yeah, it's a pregame injection and it's a halftime injection, and let's go out there and play football. I mean, I can't imagine having that sort of an injury and playing that position, a position where not only are you going to get hit and tackled virtually every time you touch the ball, with the exception of those times that you score touchdowns and nobody touches you, but you also have to twist. He's got to get his arms up to catch the football left and right and all the natural movements that involve the oblique. Virtually every movement that you make as a running back is going to involve the oblique.
Totally. Yeah, your core.
So that all hurts before you even get to the opponent part of it.
I know. I totally get it. My perception is, though, as an NFL player, that they're in pain all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Well, there's pain, and then there's, this level
excessive
of pain.
Excessive pain, sure.
Excessive pain that has it so you can't even finish a football game.
Yeah. We're presented by Fremont Bank, full-service banking, no compromises. Do you have any issues with Christian McCaffrey's usage, as we do celebrate, by the way, the 1-year anniversary of his acquisition?